August was a little hairy, but I am finally ready to share our August 2022 budget report. So stick around to see how things went for us. Hi, friends, and welcome to the Budget Bounce. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jen, and we talk all about living life on a budget, saving for our future, paying down debt, and all the life that happens along the way on this channel. If those are things that interest you, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button down below so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. So like I mentioned, August was a little crazy. There was a lot going on. I moved all of our sinking funds. There was just a lot of activity on top of just the life that was happening, that was going on. And it took me a little bit to get everything squared away so that I knew exactly where everything was. I realize that sounds silly, but when you're moving things around, it complicates things. So it just took me a little bit to wrap up all those details, and finally I'm done. And so let's just jump on over to the spreadsheet and have a look and see how things went. All right, so here we are looking at our monthly budget template. This is the template that we use every single month. It started in much simpler fashion back in 2018, and it has grown and evolved over time. It's a very detail-oriented template that I use, and that's because I need to live in the details. Not everybody does, and so I recognize that, but this one has a lot going on in it. And if this is something that you like or you want to learn more about, it is available in my Etsy shop for sale in both Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets format. So I use it in Google Sheets format, but for years I used it in Microsoft Excel. So it works either way, and it's the exact same thing regardless of which format you purchase it in. But anyhow, let's get into what happened in August. So first, I want to start, before we actually start talking about what actually happened, I want to share a little bit and give some insight into why August was so hectic and such a challenge. So first of all, we had unexpected maintenance on not one, but two cars. And it was not just a little bit of maintenance. It was over $1,000 for each of them that we were not planning on. And then we had to make a change in our car insurance coverage. We had to, we traveled we had a death in the family, and we traveled for that. And so we were dealing with grief, Matt in particular, dealing with grief and trying to get through all of that because that was a situation where our niece was in hospice for several weeks prior to losing her. So it was kind of a long drawn out thing through July and August for Matt in particular. We also moved our sinking funds and then shifted the balances in response to all the things that were going on. I had to move money around anyhow. While we were moving it from one bank to another, we also had to move it into our checking account, and it was all happening all at the same time so that we could pay for everything. We had, our refrigerator died at the end of July, and so we had to buy a new refrigerator in August, and then we had to replenish. So we lost everything that was perishable was lost in that issue, and we had to replace all of that. So our grocery bill was it was already expected to be higher anyway. Our food bill, our food category was expected to be higher, but now groceries was off the charts. So anyhow, there were a lot of different moving parts, and that is what contributed to a lot of what you're going to see here. So let's just start by talking about our income. So our focus today, when I set up the budget, we're talking about the budgeted column here, but today we're talking about the actual and then where we landed over under for the month. So when we look at our income here, I black out our salaries. We don't mind sharing totals, but I do black out our salaries. And I'm looking at this total here and realizing that this is not reflective of what is really happening right here. And I've never been able to get these correct so that they show the way that I want them to show. I think probably that will help. There we go. Anyhow, so what we have here is our salaries are blacked out, and then I show everything else that comes in. So our rental income was a little bit higher than expected, and then our sinking funds, you can see we planned on using $555, but we ended up using over $4,000 in our sinking funds. And I will go through all of that when we get to that section. We did not have to tap into our emergency fund by moving everything around and using our sinking funds for all of these things. We did not have to get into our emergency fund, which I was happy for, because these things actually would have qualified for an emergency fund, but if I can take them from sinking funds instead, I will do that where I can. Then we expected a reimbursement for child support that did not come in August. It has since come in September, but that obviously is not reflected here. And then we had some student loan money come in that we weren't expecting. We actually thought that was all done, and we had some more come in. So here we are. We ended up with $17,339 in our income bucket. And it's not just, obviously income from earnings. It was money that was sitting, in our sinking funds versus, we've got this loan money that came in and whatnot. That's not earned. The sinking funds were earned at another time, right? And then the loan is a loan. So $17,339 is what we ended up having to work with. In giving, we didn't plan on anything, but then we ended up having a few gifts that we ended up purchasing. So we were at $223 for the month. In housing, our mortgage was $2,725. Our gas and electric was $316. Our quarterly utilities were $205. Our internet was $122. Our mobile services was $153. And our total housing was $3,523, which is pretty much right on target with what we planned. Moving into transportation, before we jump into that, I think that probably the housing number was about the only place that we came in on target this month. So let's have a look. Transportation, we planned on $500 because we knew we were going to be traveling more. We spent $472. We had $24 for OnStar, and then we had $1,067 for repairs for the car, and then we had $112 for the Traverse. Now, not everything for the Traverse happened at the very end of the month, so actually some of it, this was some standard like oil change and tire rotation, but we have a big thing that's actually going to hit in September. So there was a lot of, I'm mixing up. It's so late that I'm recording this. I'm mixing up that I had some of this happen in very early September when I talk about all the moving parts that we had going on. So repairs were $112, and then registration was $154. And then we didn't have anything for rideshare or anything. So we spent $1,831 when we planned on $874, which is a big negative. And you can see we have another big negative again in food. So here we have groceries are at $1,118, and dining out was $649, and that brought the total to $1,768. And I will tell you that this dining out is off the charts due to a lot of emotional eating that was happening this month. In the month of August, because of all the things that were going on. And we just didn't put a tamp on it at all. We just let loose. So 1,768, which is 618 over what we planned. And I think the highest amount we've spent on food since we have been tracking all of this. And a big part of this, some of the dining out was after we lost our refrigerator. But also the groceries, we spent several $100s replacing a whole lot of food that we lost when the old refrigerator died. So yeah, $618 is where we landed there. In kiddos, we spent $28 on Bug. That's our granddaughter. We bought her some clothes. So our total was $28. In pets, we had $150 for boarding because we ended up needing to board Uther for the weekend when we went out of town. We thought our daughter was going to be able to watch him, but it didn't work out. She wasn't available. So we had I must have hit the mouse. So we had $150 for boarding. We had only $25 for food. We had $25 for grooming and nothing for meds and $61 for other supplies, bringing our total to $262, which is again a little bit over budget. In insurance, we had $35 for accident. We had $317 for auto insurance because we had to make changes, and so it went up. $74 for critical illness, $25 to dental, $40 to hospital indemnity, $12 to identity theft, $15 to legal, $92 to life, $60 for Matt's union dues, $500 for medical, $25 for pet insurance because for some reason they haven't stopped it, and we're trying to get that stopped because I canceled it effective July 1st. $62 for short-term disability, and that brought our total to $1,262, which was $342 over. In entertainment, we had $48 for streaming, $4 for HP Inc., $10 for Cinemark, and $76 for family entertainment, bringing our total to $140, and that is not the right amount there. Let me carry that down. We're over by $90 in this category. This family entertainment, this was while we were traveling. We ended up going out to dinner and a movie while we were out of town. So for health, we have $522 to our flexible spending account, $33 to the gym, $635 to healthcare, bringing the total to $1,191. $619 over budget again. In extras, I thought we were going to have our Microsoft Office renewal, but I have not seen that come through, so I'm thinking I might have renewed that for 2 years last year. This is the refrigerator. We spent $2,202 on a new refrigerator. That included, of course, the delivery, the haul away, and a 5-year warranty plan on it, service plan, whatever you call it. $2,202, which is a lot less than what we thought we were going to spend. And I'm actually going to do a video about that situation and how that all played out. So I won't get into a whole lot of details here. Yard and garden, we spent $348. We ended up buying a pressure canner for $299, and I wanted that called out because I want to be able to see when it is that we bought that in case that becomes I like to keep track of how much we're spending on canning because it's an investment. And this is the one thing that I spent money on for this year was a pressure canner. And what we've been doing prior to this was the water bath canning. And we want to do some different types of things that water bath doesn't get hot enough for. Great clips. This is a haircut for Matt. And so $15 for that. So our total extras was $2,865, which is, a whole lot more than what we planned. So again, blown out of the water. Miscellaneous, we spent $92 on personal spending, $327 on the household, $301 on all other miscellaneous, and that brings the total to $721, which is $411 over budget. All right, next up, we're looking at our savings. And so we put, $100 into our emergency fund, and that put us at $4,966 at the end of the month. Nothing to investments, $100 to college savings, and $603 to retirement. These 3 rows here, this is how much we've put in year to date. This is not how much we have total. I just like to see how much we've done in a 12-month period. So here we are. It gets reset every January. So we've put in a total of $5,736 into some form of savings or retirement. So our total savings for the month was $803, and which was a little bit more than we planned. But this came out of this $100 going in when we didn't plan on it. Came out of me shifting all of the all of the sinking funds to from one bank to another. So let's just talk about that. So here are all of our sinking funds. You can see we have a bunch of them, but I did get rid of 2 of them. I got rid of our wedding anniversary and the entertainment one. So, both of those things are things that we can fund at the time that they come up. If we need to, we don't need a fund for those. So I stopped with that. And also I moved everything out of, actually it was 2 different banks. We had 2 other online banks that we were using for all of our accounts, and I moved it over to one account with Ally. Now, I have experienced some challenges with that because everybody kept saying, remember, you can only do 6 withdrawals out of the account every month, which I knew that, but I wasn't realizing how many we were going to need to make at the time that we made the decision to do this, because when we decided to move everything over to Ally, we didn't realize all the things that were going to be happening, all the life that was going to be happening that we were going to have to dip into our sinking funds for. So anyway, so let me just talk about what we ended up putting in each account, and then we'll talk about what we used. So first of all, we put $250 into auto insurance, nothing to registrations, $210 into auto repair, nothing to utilities, nothing to estate planning, nothing to our family accounts, which these are now condensed into one bucket inside of our and same thing with auto. This is all one bucket inside of Ally. This is one bucket inside of Ally, inside of our account. So nothing into any of those. Gifts, we didn't put anything in gifts. We did 100 to holidays, nothing to healthcare. We did 150 to home maintenance, 81 to life insurance, nothing to personal care for clothing, nothing to personal care for image. So again, these are in the same bucket. 100 to pet expense, nothing to technology, either one of them. So devices or online subscriptions. Those are one bucket. And then travel's also one bucket, and we didn't put anything in travel. Now let's go over here and look at what we used. So we had an auto registration come up due in August, so we pulled the money out for that and took care of that. We pulled out $729 for auto repairs. I don't know why I didn't end up pulling out this $132, but it doesn't matter. It's all going to get used up in September anyway. So then we pulled 28 out for that purchase of clothes that we did for Bug. We have $213 for the gifts that we noted up above. We pulled $145 out to help cover those healthcare costs that were like $600. We pulled $300 out for home maintenance. That covered the pressure cooker. And then personal care, we pulled out $136 total for clothing and the haircut and beard trim that Matt had. And then $190 out of the pet expense got moved. And then we ended up, I'm going to move this up. So we had quite a bit of money in our personal travel or vacation fund. And we have, because of things that are going on, decided not to go on the vacation that we were going to go on next year. And so all that money that we saved up, we used it to buy the refrigerator. So that is where, and obviously we didn't have exactly this is the amount that the refrigerator cost. We did not have exactly that much in here. It got reallocated. When I moved everything over, I completely shifted everything. So these balances don't actually reflect where everything was the month before at the end of the month. So it just was really hairy to move everything. And so without getting into all of that, what we ended up with was we used $4,098 and we had $4,425 remaining in our sinking funds at the end of the month. Excuse me. Finally, we are at our last budget category, and that is our debt category. And it is so big and has so much going on that I have 3 subsections. So the first subsection is the paid off section, and you can see here that we have a total of $86,318 that we have paid off 100% in the rearview mirror, and it's a total of, I think, 27 different debts that have been paid off completely and totally. And so we're done with those. Then the next section is a charged off or in collections or whatever you want to call it. None of these debts are owned by the original creditor that's listed here. They are owned by collections agencies, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with those later. There's no fees or interest that is building on those, and they're not a priority. And that's because Matt asked me to have them not be a priority. He asked that back in 2018 when we started all of this, and he has continued with that he wants us to focus on other things instead. So the way that I know that these are Matt's, by the way, is anything that has black font, that has Matt's name only on it. Anything that has pink font has my name on it. It might also have Matt's name, but he wanted to distinguish between the things that were only his versus those that had my name on them. So that's how we did it, was just because you can see we had a whole bunch of them. I mean, this is just 2 sections. I got a whole nother list down here. So anyway, so we're not doing anything with these for now. And there's a total of $5,476 that is sitting there for those. Getting down to our actively paying, we have a balance of $151,964 remaining with these. So if you look here, we have, this is a credit card, and it is at $90 a month that we paid. This credit card, we paid $80. This, for child support, we paid $91. This is another credit card that we paid $50. This is a private student loan, we paid $50. This is the car payment, $550. $205 to the HELOC, $400 to our credit card, that our active credit card that got racked up again, you can see, to a ridiculous amount. Nothing to graduate student loans, $300 to the family loan, and nothing to undergraduate student loans. And that brought our total to $1,817 that we paid to debt. Now, let's just, before we get over here and look at all of this stuff over here, let me just jump down here. We had total expenses of $17,330. I think it's the biggest month of expenses that we've ever had, aside from when we were like buying our house and whatnot. So $17,330. Our income was $17,339, which gave us just about $9 left over for the month. No problem. I just leave that there. I don't mess with that. It's fine. We just leave it in the checking account so that if we go over some month, we have a little bit sitting there to cover it. So going back over here and looking at our debts, so in our balances here, so we have, anywhere from $621 up to $51,000. And I did get a question I will just address right now. Somebody asked in one of my more recent, I think my last video, if we were eligible for student loan forgiveness, the one-time student loan relief. And yes, we are. These are all these loans are MATs, and these graduate and undergraduate loans are all federal loans. And he went to school as an adult. He was not a traditional student. He started going to school in 2009 before we were married. And we were together, we were engaged, but we were not married yet. So 2009, 2010, he got Pell Grants because he was filing as single at that time. We didn't get married until 2010. And so then in 2011, he was no longer eligible for Pell Grants. And then the way that we did everything changed. But because he had Pell Grants, he will get $20,000 in the relief that's coming. So I will probably do a totally separate video to talk about that. I've never really broken down what his loans look like and that kind of thing, but we know based on the information that has been shared that there will be 4 loans that will for sure be paid off in full, and there will be another one that almost half of it will be gone. So he has a total of 18, I think, because it's all the little loans that he gets every semester throughout. Anyway, so so we will have $20,000 in relief that is coming. So we'll talk about that when the time comes and I have more details. But you can see we started out with $158,900 in debt for the month, and we ended up at $157,441 is what is remaining. So this little section here is to show what our progress is, and I've changed this year so that it reflects truly what's been happening. So when we started in 2018, we had $255,493 in debt. And along the way, we found some additional things that we just didn't find before we started. And that's because I just had to start. We were at a point where we needed to take some drastic we needed to make drastic changes. And so getting started, whether we knew everything or not, was one of those changes. So we wrote our first budget and started paying on what we knew. And then as we found other things, we added to it. And that's what this new non-mortgage debt is. So $43,217 is the total there. Now, some of that is from back in 2018 and 19 when we found the things that we hadn't gotten our arms around yet. Other things are new things like the graduate student loans that we took on and things like that. So the total now that we have is $298,711 when you add those two together. For this month, after you apply all the interest, which by the way, that $400 payment I made on that credit card, 223 of it went to interest, which is just, I cannot stand this. I just am so mad at myself. I have to work really hard to control the emotions that come from that because I'm so disappointed and frustrated and angry with myself for allowing us to do this. While both Matt and I did this, if I had been more on my game and not fighting the demons that I was fighting, we would not be here. We charged this up it was paid off with the HELOC. We paid it off with the HELOC and we were paying this is that credit card right here. And now we're paying that credit card twice. It's so frustrating. But after you add up all the interest that we paid and subtract it from the total debt payments that we made, we killed off $1,458 in debt during the month of August. So that brings our total paid to date to $141,269. Now I also changed this up a little bit to better reflect exactly what these percentages are. So we paid 27.1% of our regular income. That's not counting all the sinking funds and the other things that came in, but I count our rental and our salaries. Our rental income and salaries is our regular income. 27.1% of that went to mortgage. 18% of that, went to debt. And then we have paid off 47.3% of our starting debt. And so that's looking at, it says starting debt, but it's looking at our total debt is what I need to change that to. It's this number. So that was our August in a nutshell. And it is, I'm just glad we made it through. And September did not start any better because we lost our cat, and while she has been sick, we did not lose her to what we thought we were going to lose her to. And it wasn't because of the thing that we found back in March. It was a whole new thing we didn't know anything about, and it was rather sudden. So anyhow, we lost our cat on August 31st, and all of that hit in September. And then we had on September 2nd, we had over $1,000 in repairs to do on our other car after we had just put like $1,000 into the other car. And also Uther had to go to the vet again because he had another infection in his ear, and that was almost a $200 visit. I mean, it was a very expensive week. And that's how September started for us because it all happened August 31st to September 3rd. It was 4 very expensive days. So that'll all be reflected in September. We just feel like we're kind of taking a beating right now. Like we can't catch a break. The good news is we have sinking funds and an emergency fund. And I am not blind to the fact that we are very blessed to even have that available because so many people do not. And I totally get that. I would not wish what we had to go through on anyone, no matter how much you make, no matter how much extra income, no matter how much you have saved. It's just a lot, it's just a lot. And in 6 weeks, we just had a whole lot of stuff. It was more like 8 weeks, I guess, but we just got pummeled. But we made it through and we still paid off some debt. Even with all that, we didn't get to do anything extra. But August is done. Now we're trying to make it through September, and I'll share all of the details about that when we get to it. I hope that your August went better than ours. I know a lot of you have kids that are back in school and that there was a lot of that going on. If you're somebody who attends state fairs and all that, that was going on. August can be a very, very busy month financially. And I hope that it went well for you, no matter what you have going on. So if you have any wins that you want to share, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And that is all I've got for you today. I will see you next time.